I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is the regular meeting, August 21st, 5:15, in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. I'd like to recognize all those in the audience, including our Teacher Leadership Academy teachers are here as part of their, isn't it assigned, like board education. And we have Ms. Streifel, Mrs. Schlafman, Mrs. Shoemaker, and Mrs. Lloyd. So thank you for attending our meeting. And we appreciate any feedback as well for our meeting. So thank you. And Mr. Kubat is also here, and we'll go for some recognition later in the agenda today. So thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on in our agenda, B, conflicts of interest. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest to declare? If not, school board norms. Dan, would you be willing to read those norms? Yes. Thank you.
The board developed norms are to share and respect opinions and speak with a united voice once a decision has been reached, execute all duties of the school board in compliance with North Dakota Century Code, properly prepare for meetings, and commit to assessing board effectiveness and ensure high-quality governance for all stakeholders.
Thank you, Dan. And as we move through our agenda, as we've been doing, I'm going to just assume a roll call vote for all votes, just for efficiency purposes. However, at any time, if a board member would like a formal roll call, Chrissy will be ready for that at any time. Certain things like budget and those kinds of things, we'll continue to do the roll call, but just for efficiency purposes, we'll just assume when we call for a vote that it's a roll call vote. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Moving on our agenda, we have nothing under public communication. Under consent agenda, there's our consent agenda there. Would any board member like anything removed from that for further discussion? Would you like anything removed? If not, is there a motion? Motion by Gail to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second by Dan? We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Under our regular meeting, under recognition, Aaron, would you be willing to read our recognition? And then Mr. Kubat, would you come forward when he's done reading for your certificate?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, each year North Dakota Career and Technology Education selects one program instructor from the 9 areas in recognition of NDCTE's Program of the Year. And I'm proud to announce that Kevin Kubat's Automotive Collision Program was recognized as North Dakota's Trade and Industries winner. The James Valley Career and Technology Center's Automotive Collision Repair Program is dedicated to providing foundational and advanced collision training to support a local and regional trade in great demand. Kevin's program took shape in 1978, and hundreds of people of the automotive industry took their first steps in Kevin's classes. The JVCTC automotive collision courses create opportunities for gainful employment in the field of automotive collision repair program completers in conjunction with secondary and post-secondary students. Kevin's courses are rich in career-ready practices, and participants leave with a better understanding of industry expectations. Moreover, the program is representative of employer needs as expressed by local businesses and industry professionals. The combination of theory and hands-on experiences allow the students to integrate the training into successful employment, leading to the fulfillment of personal, cultural, and economic goals. While there is much to celebrate within the framework of Kevin's program, we greatly appreciate the relationships he forms with students. Kevin's students view him as an adult to be trusted, and they truly value the personal interests he invests within each person. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in celebrating Kevin Kubat and his program.
Thank you for your work and congratulations. Moving forward in the agenda B, correspondence, we received a card from the James Swank family, and we appreciate that. Under reports, we have nothing. Under board education, strategic competency, teacher leadership academy overview, cohort 2 TLA members. Please come forward and introduce yourselves. And
First, we want to say thank you for the board's commitment to the Teacher Leadership Academy. So first off, we want to talk about the overview of the program, the courses that we've taken, and how they're meaningful and different than typical coursework that I've taken in different graduate courses. So first semester, we took Foundations of Educational Leadership, Educational Research, and Reflective Practicum. Second semester, Learning Organizations and Advocating for Change. Third semester, Curriculum and Instruction for Learning, Professional Development and Coaching. Fourth semester, Tech and Student Information Systems, Influence of Social, Cultural, Political Factors for Schools. And next semester, Practicum and Teacher Leadership and Presentation/Publication. So these courses are different than most programs in the fact that they have their assignments aligned to our school and district as well as us teachers. When we do our homework or are in class, the information that we are focusing on is beneficial and helpful to not only us as leaders and teachers, but also to the district and the schools within the district. These courses also worked well with us being full-time teachers, parents, coaches, and many other roles that we are ahead while also being students. These courses were designed with us in mind, and that was always so encouraging along the way so that we were not overwhelmed with 15 million things to get accomplished on top of trying to make sure that we were meeting the needs of 20-something kids in our classroom. It was also nice to only meet twice a month on Wednesday evenings from 4:30 to 8:30, and then meet 5 times in the summer, twice in June and twice in July, and once at the beginning of August. It was nice to break things up and not just do it all at once and have to do it in 1 month in the summer, giving us a break. This helped to break things up and give a break in the summer, but get our course in. Overall, we felt these courses were much more personalized to not only us, but also the district. This is something that we felt helped us to relate to the courses and dig deeper into them.
I'm Jolene Shoemaker, kindergarten teacher at Lincoln Elementary. And first of all, when I thought a master's program, no way. Little did I realize that I enjoyed it so much. I'm going to kind of talk about the impact of the program and what it really means to us teachers professionally. This program helps us a lot with a lot of different things. It promotes professional growth, empowers teachers, and connects to the work in the district. We are continuously learning. We have become more comfortable with our staff members. Truthfully, I was very shy and didn't think that I could talk in front of people. And this class has just got me up and motivated to talk and even become a mentor for our school. We are more willing to incorporate different ideas and stuff like that. TLA is very affordable because of the Burgum Foundation. And it was really an interesting thing to have half of our tuition covered by them, but then also to have a rural partnership. So previously there was Edgeley, but we are connected with Lemoore. And to really connect with those teachers and learn from a smaller district and come to Jamestown district, it's a great commitment. We are focusing on the training and recruiting of retiring teachers and leaders in the rural school district.
Hi, I'm Christy Lloyd. I teach reading and math interventions at Lincoln Elementary. So TLA is something where they are educating teachers for leadership roles. The program has given the district a chance to grow teacher leaders in all levels of education. We have elementary, middle school, and high school teachers all in this program. These teacher leaders can be looked to for guiding other teachers in the district, helping them become better teachers as well. So it's not just about us, it's helping other teachers become better as well. The TLA aligns with current research in education. We've learned things about code of conduct, ethics, school law, historical trauma, things like that. We have a direct application of our learning to professional practice. An example would be the book that we are reading right now for the semester we're going into. It's called Equity Partnerships. And it aligns with all of the various cultures that we have in our district and how to support family engagement with all of those cultures in our district, which means a lot to me with being Title I and trying to promote all of that family engagement in our schools. The TLA also focuses on the work of Jamestown Public Schools. It's not just somewhere beyond. It is in this town, in our school district. We are leading school improvement efforts. We've done things such as morale studies, trying to help teacher morale be boosted using different strategies we've done. Plus, we've done like Facebook posts, trying to promote all of the different teachers and staff in the district. We have action research projects that are correlated right in our classrooms to try to improve our practices in our classrooms. TLA designs the implementation of district initiatives. We are implementing cybersecurity standards, trying to help with the scope and sequence of that. Safety protocols have been heightened, and we have had the chance to be on committees like me. I was on the Enrollment and Facilities Task Force with the district this last year. So that's for me.
Hi, I am Casey Schlafman, and I teach kindergarten at Gusner Elementary. And I am going to talk about some of our assignments and our activities that we've been doing. So our signature assignments. Our first one that we've worked on from semesters 1 through 3 is improving staff morale. As Christy kind of touched on, where teacher morale has declined significantly, even in just the past 5 years. So part of that assignment is we were asked to gather a focus group. And we were the elementary team. And so we had the task of trying to get some elementary teachers into this focus group and be willing to answer some questions. And that was difficult in itself to do because it was over the summer to begin with. And yeah, part of the morale, the teachers were, it was just tough. But anyways, for the first 3 semesters, we worked on finding ways that we could improve staff morale. So when we met with this focus group, we asked them questions, they gave us feedback, and we picked some things that we could do to try to improve their morale. And safety was a big concern among a lot of those teachers. With everything going on in the world today, that was one thing that we had to do. And then we came up with an idea to promote, safety, and I know we're actually working on that. One of our district initiatives is improving, staff, like just protocols of getting into, schools and, the locking. And but anyways, that was one of my more interesting assignments that I was like to do. Another signature assignment that we have been working on that we just started that we're this summer was the cybersecurity and integration of the DPI, the bill HB 1398, which mandates the teaching of computer science and cybersecurity standards in grades K through 12, which they've been there, but it's something that we need, it's mandated now, so we need to, that's part of our plan, is to develop a comprehensive plan for incorporating those standards in the K through 12 classrooms. Our action research, that actually was my favorite assignment, and I really liked how the program, it was a spiral curriculum. We started off semester 1, we're still working on it here, semester 5, and I believe we are going to be presenting our action research to you. So what action research is we had to choose a topic that was relevant to our grade level, and we did the study in our classrooms, which was great. And I, kindergarten teacher, I did it on the importance of play, and like I said, you guys will find out about that later on. But, and again, we want to thank you, the board, for your commitment to the Teacher Leadership Academy, and yeah, for everything you do. So, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Yep, go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to thank you guys for your commitment to our district, to the kids, to your coworkers, and I appreciate you guys taking the initiative in this Teacher Leadership Academy, and I really look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Diane?
Same thing that Jamie said. I really appreciate the commitment that you've made because it's not like you don't have enough on your plate as teachers, you know. I wondered about the morale question that you posed to elementary teachers. Besides the safety issue, did you have anything else that we should know about that's impacting the morale? For instance, the legislative mandates, the book banning, that type of thing. Did anything come up that we should know about?
I think more in general, it was the curriculum. That many times that the curriculum is getting outdated. So there is teachers that are going for other resources and they want us to be connected. If you want all kindergarten teachers to be teaching the same thing or all fifth grade teachers to be teaching the same thing across the district, then we need to make sure our materials are up to date. And we understand that money is an issue with that, but I feel that's going to keep us more on the same page, and we want what's best for our students.
Any other questions from the board? No? If not, thank you so much for taking your time to come and visit with us about Teacher Leadership Academy, and we all look forward to the presentations in December. And I got a little taste of them a couple weeks ago, but we're looking forward to hearing from all of you again. So thank you so much. Moving on in our agenda, E, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Luck.
Thank you. You have my written report as always. I'll roll through some of these areas a little bit more than others. I wanted to draw your attention to the second topic, which is the after-school program changes. I laid the foundation for this at an earlier meeting, but I think it's important for the board to understand kind of the timeline, the process of what's happening. So on July 28th, which is less than a month ago, we were informed by the Southeast Education Cooperative, that is the holder of the writer and holder of our grant funds for the after-school program, that they would effective immediately no longer manage the 21st Century Grant for us. And they gave us three options. The first option was to subgrant that federal grant. They wrote on our behalf, and it's about $160,000. And they said that they would just simply subgrant that to us to run our own program or to find another partner. The second was, and again, that's effective immediately. The second was they could release that 160 to another consortium to manage the 21st Century program. And the third was simply just to not reopen the program or reopen it late. We discarded option 3 almost immediately. We know in our community our after-school programs are vital. They're vital for our workforce. They're vital for our families. Not having the program and not having it start, regardless of the challenges that would cause of simply taking over a program less than a month ago, it just simply wasn't an option. We needed to not only provide the program, but provide it with as few transitional hiccups as possible for our families. So we looked at, we considered our second option, just move to another consortium, but our runway was simply too short to ask us in a month to make those transitions, and that other consortium to make those transitions for us in a month. You know, you're talking staff onboarding, training, all of those kinds of things that would just not be possible. I don't believe for another consortium. And our last option came down to, do we want to manage the program, or is there a community partner? And we did have a community partner that was willing to step up, but again, the runway short for them as well. And ultimately, we decided it would be best if we just managed it ourselves. And so, like I said, we know the role that this plays, and we want to provide a very smooth transition. So we anticipate having the program available on the first day of school. There's some pieces that needed to fall into place for that, and we got those, some staff onboarded. A big piece of that was we had an employee in the district, Lana Meisner, who had served as a program coordinator, a site coordinator for the program in the past, before she was employed with us. And she was willing to although she was transitioning to a new position herself, she was a secondary EL teacher, and she has transitioned to the elementary. So she's taken on a new role, but still was willing to help us out on a short-term basis and provide that site coordination responsibilities for us, and that's been a blessing. I don't think we could have done it without our staff stepping up and saying they recognize how important the program is, and they wanted to make sure that it existed. And like I said, this is an individual with already a full-time position, willing to do that outside of contracted time on an hourly basis in the short term. So we're very appreciative of her, appreciative of the staff that are coming back. We thought we had a program coordinator, but unfortunately that person was hired by the SEC, and so we will not have that, which is why Mrs. Meisner's position and her willingness to support us was so important. But I'm very proud of our administrative team for thankful for Mrs. Meisner to help out all those that have made this, under really tough circumstances, hopefully a blip on the radar screen for our families. We have a lot of stuff to deal with, but hopefully for our families it is business as usual. But with that, I know this is a bigger topic, so I'll just pause for questions. Maybe there aren't any.
Aaron.
Just a question on the grant side of it, as far as writing the grant and getting approval for that. Is that an annual thing, or are we going to be looking for a partner for that? Are we going to try to do that ourselves here then going forward, or have you?
That's a great question. We had a great conversation at the elementary administrative team about this. There are some restrictions that come with an after-school program grant, like a lot of federal grants and federal money. A lot of strings come with that, and I do wonder if we would be better off once this grant is expired. So we are just starting this grant. So there's a few more years of funding coming to us. Yeah, so I think we have 2 more years of funding, if I remember correctly. But I do wonder, and we've had conversations, if we would be best off just running our own program, not even accessing the grant, but using it through running the program through a sliding scale based on financial need. And if we did that, we wouldn't be as concerned about, where can we have these programs. Like, for example, we have one school that doesn't have access to after-school program. They don't meet the poverty requirements. We have another school, Louis L'Amour, that vacillates in and out of the program because they qualify, then the next year they don't, then the next year they're back in again. And I do wonder if we could better serve our families just by running the program ourselves without federal grant and just maintaining a sliding scale. So to answer your question, yes, we're still receiving the federal funding for a few more years, but a long-term vision for this might be that we might be better served to do it ourselves.
Any other questions? And just, again, express appreciation to Lana Meisner and others that are stepping forward on this short notice. So, thank you.
So another topic that may have a little bit of conversation or question is pre-service authorization. The media had a lot of attention around a request from the Education Standards and Practices Board, that is a licensing agency for teachers. A lot of attention came around what's being called pre-teacher authorization approval authorization. Essentially what that means is allowing a teacher that has not yet completed the student teaching experience but has completed all other requirements on a limited basis to be considered a teacher of record. So essentially they are gaining their student teaching experience concurrent with that first semester of teaching. And again, this has gotten a lot of attention, understandably so, but I do think it's important for the board to understand that this isn't a novel idea. This has already occurred and has occurred in education in the past. Maybe not at this scope, at this level that pre-service teaching authorization may provide, but it has happened before. I'll give you an example. If a incoming teacher is licensed as an alternative access in an alternate access licensure, they may have a 4-year degree in another field, not in education. And in that circumstance, if they have completed other coursework, they would be eligible to get that teacher of record concurrent with their student teaching experience. Essentially the same idea as a pre-teacher authorization. The difference is they already hold a 4-year degree. Not in education, but a separate 4-year degree. That happens. That's happened in Jamestown. If they have that licensure, they're allowed to do that under an alternate access, and that critical piece is licensed, that they're licensed to receive that, just like a pre-teacher authorization is a licensure to provide this in this emergency measure. Another example, we just heard from, or you just recognized Kevin Kubat. Many of our teachers in CTE have a transition to teaching program or come to us through a transition to teaching program. In this circumstance, they're actually have received far less methodology coursework than a pre-service teacher authorization teacher would have received as a part of this program. They come to us directly from the field, and they get their teaching experience concurrent with all of their coursework. And so these are things that are already occurring. Now we have permit teachers. They may not have been, likely wouldn't have been a student teacher in the past. So this is not a novel idea, but it has received a lot of attention. And the thing that I can share about it, or a few things that I can share about it, is number one, that they're licensed. They're licensed through ESPB through this emergency measure. I think that's critically important to understand. They are licensed. It's a different pathway, but they are licensed. The concerns come when you consider what a student teaching experience provides for our incoming teachers. And if you are, in my mind, if you are committing to a pre-service authorization teacher, you are committing to creating outcomes that are similar in their first semester that you would find in a student teaching experience. That experience isn't going to be the same, but the outcome should be the same, or at least replicated to the best degree that you can. So I draw your attention to two things. The first is the general guidance. So we were part of Jamestown School District, we were part of creating general guidance for the state as it relates to, and we just shared this out in the past weeks, with the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders to draft this. We got feedback from teachers, from ESPB, from administrators across the state in creating general guidance. So if we are going to do this, how can we do it correctly? How can we do it in a way that replicates those outcomes for student teachers? A huge piece of that is what I call the individualized training plan, and you can click on that, there's a link. But we created an individualized training plan that uses the Marzano framework, which is our teacher observation evaluation framework, to consider what the specific needs of each individual teacher would be in this pre-service teaching experience. So there has to be a recognition that every teacher is different. An example that I've used in this before is consider a middle school science opening. You could have, in the middle school, you could have two different types of teachers apply and be hired for middle school science. You could have somebody with a composite science degree that has a secondary background. They would be eligible for the middle school teaching. You could also have an elementary teacher, a classroom elementary teacher that could service in that role as well. Well, they have very different needs as teachers. They would all be pre-service teachers, but an individual that is soon to graduate with a composite science degree, they understand content. That's not their question. It might be, how do they support their middle school learners? What are their needs for professionalism and collegiality? What are those things that they would get from a student teaching experience? An elementary teacher, content is a huge need. You would have to fill that bucket much differently than you would have to with somebody that's graduated with a composite science degree, so they're prepared and ready to be in that classroom. So I think anytime you use pre-service authorization, you would have to create an individualized teaching plan that recognizes what they have, where they're at, and where you want to get them to. And so that has 4 different areas in which using a pre-service teacher, you would create an individualized training plan for each of those teachers. And we're talking about pre-service teachers, but as we had conversations, this really is about any teacher that hasn't gone through that experience. And while not required, actually none of this is required. It's not required by the state or ESPB. This is something that we're choosing to do because we think it's the right thing to do. But we want to make sure that anybody that's in a similar position that has not, is licensed but has lacked that experience of student teaching, somebody with an alternative access, somebody in a transition to teaching, they would all have an individualized training plan. It's just something we think moving forward, we probably haven't supported those individuals enough. This gave a lot of dialogue around pre-service teachers, but I think there's a lot of others that can benefit from this as well. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Gail.
And while I'd like to add, I mean, having done student teaching myself on both an elementary and secondary level, there is no substitute for it. I do think desperate times call for flexibility, which is with this. I do have a question. Are these people who step up going to be receive some kind of stipend? Or, because to me, it doesn't seem fair to pay to do this, which is, and I have seen no clarification on that come forward yet. That seems like a big ask for a person.
Absolutely. So great question. And one of the things that I forgot to reference as I was droning on a bit, but not every student, not every teacher, not every student teacher or eligible student teacher is going to be able to be a pre-service teacher. There's a process in place through the institution of higher ed. They have to be approved to even go to the next level to be considered for licensure. They have to prove that they're ready. There's a rubric that the institution of higher ed utilizes. They actually utilize it for the alternate access licensure. So they're going to use that also for pre-service authorization. So they have to already meet criteria at higher ed. This isn't every student teacher, and I think there's assumptions when this was in the media initially that meant everybody was going to, every student teacher was going to become a pre-service teacher. It's not the case. There's only a handful, to my knowledge, in the state of North Dakota that have been approved by ESPB to use this program. So that's not everybody, and I think that's an important distinction to make too. We have student teachers still, and we will still have student teachers throughout the duration of this emergency measure. But to answer your question specifically about compensation, these would be people that you compensate. The way that you would do that is as a long-term sub. There are concerns and issues with issuing a contract, that they may not meet the criteria to be issued a contract. But if you can provide them as a long-term sub, that means after 10 days, they receive the first-year teacher daily rate, which is what they would be receiving anyway. That's the level at which they would be compensated. So there's a very little difference from a compensation standpoint. And to be honest, actually, they'll have a greater salary or a greater bottom line in their check. You wouldn't have TFFR removed. So their checks would actually be larger in the first semester than they would in the second semester when they're issued a contract because they meet that criteria for a contract.
Is that uniform across the state, or is that what our policy is?
That is the guidance that has been provided. I can't speak to what other districts would do. I can only speak to what we would do. And the guidance we have given to other districts that have considered this is, and actually the feedback we got from our teachers was the same. That this really is a long-term sub situation until they have a degree conferred. Then in January 1st, they're issued a contract for the remainder of that year, and they're paid as a teacher, contract as a teacher, and that follows all the continuing contract laws of hire after January 1st. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Go ahead, Gail.
I'd just like to also urge this is only a real short-term solution to what is becoming a bigger problem in the state. And I've said it before, but hopefully our legislators are listening to this and looking at this and thinking of, and North Dakota's not alone, but the profession I love, I want it to be filled with people.
I can comment to that too. The reality is, this measure is in place for the next 2 school years. In a perfect world, you would have, if there are others that are available to fill those pools, whether this flexibility exists or not, I don't think would change the game. Districts are going to hire those that have completed student teaching over those that have not. It's an emergency measure. I will say, if we're being honest, these kinds of flexibilities don't often roll back. They're pilots. And if they're done well, then they're extended or codified. And I would say that's potentially where this is going, that it could be a long-term solution. That's why I felt we needed to create guidance and supports as if it could be, because we want to do it the right way. We want to make sure that the experience is replicated for a student teaching experience for somebody that's in a pre-service teaching authorization licensure. But I understand the concern, but in a perfect world, I think that problem solves itself by having more. And I think you would see little to no use of pre-service authorization, whether it exists or not, as an option, if those pipelines are full.
Diane?
And this is a related subject. I think everybody in the room knows that the nation is facing a critical teacher shortage. And I read in the Jamestown Sun that UJ has stepped up to the plate, the University of Jamestown, and they are offering a tuition stipend to those students willing to go into elementary and I believe secondary education, which is substantial. And I just wanted to get the word out to the public that this is an opportunity that hasn't come around in a long, long time, and that if you have an interest in the teaching profession, UJ is offering you an avenue that has never been offered that I know of, an economic stipend that would really help you in that field. So maybe all of you know about it. I did not know about it, so if Dr. Leck wants to add to that, that'd be great.
I don't have anything else to add to it, but we're always appreciative of UJ and a great partnership. They're always very responsive. Other questions with this issue?
Any other questions from the board? All right, continue.
Okay, so SLP agreement in the previous meeting, you asked me to clarify in an addendum what would be in place with our SLP agreement, make sure that we are not extending ourselves beyond our acceptable liability there. And we did get that addendum, and I included that in your packet, that 1 FTE equates to 40 hours and there would be no overtime based on that allotment, which is what we were hoping to get and what we expected, but wanted to pass that along. So we've had new teacher orientation to Mrs. Nelson's point. We have many, many new staff, the largest group that we've ever had a new teacher orientation meeting. It was a full group. When we had mentors in here too, it was Thompson was quite full. And so we wanted to make sure that they were feeling comfortable and welcomed into our district and give them a chance to connect with other teachers, become familiar with our system, become familiar with their mentors, and then of course complete any necessary onboarding protocols. So we've started with all teachers back today. You know that you'll be serving breakfast tomorrow morning, and you're certainly welcome to stay for any of the in-service that we have tomorrow up at the high school as well. I sent out some information earlier last week on elementary PLC pilots. We know that there has been a late start PLC across the district for a few years, and that's been an important program for us to integrate the concepts of professional learning communities. But one of the things that we learned is the challenges that we're seeing at the elementary level. It relates to less so about the teaming time and the collaborations, but more about management of families, management of our students, and loss of instructional prep time. That came up in communications committee meetings, that came up in negotiations, that this was a challenge. And our administrative team, or specifically our elementary administrative team, really took to task. I asked them to look to see if there's other solutions to address those concerns, and they suggested a pilot. And in that pilot, we would move one other issue, some of the specialists were missing out on that same scheduled PLC time. It was occurring, but at a different time of the day, and they wanted a little bit of alignment for that. And so what the elementary administrators came up with, the only condition I had was families can see no, I want to minimize the negative impact to any families. So what they suggested, they felt like they could address almost every one of those concerns by moving elementary PLC time, maintaining it at the middle school and high school. That's been working effectively, but transitioning that to 2:45 to 4 o'clock. Right now at the elementary levels, we have a lot of our paraprofessionals managing our students when they come in. We don't want to see an impact to families, so we tell them, bring your students at the same time, and we manage the students. Some of them go into PE classes or a music class. Others are just supported by the paras in that transition. And our elementary administrators felt like we could better utilize our paras, open up that instructional time, eliminate the loss of instructional prep, if we did that elementary PLC from 2:45 to 4. And I thought, let's start with yes. Let's try it first. Instead of talking about all the reasons why we couldn't, let's talk about the reasons why we should. And so I looked at it as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about a different way of doing our PLCs in the morning. That doesn't mean there isn't a little bit of challenge. We have potentially some families that are maybe their sophomore or junior drive our elementary students to school. That might be a little bit of a challenge that we need to overcome. It would be a little bit different because their timelines would be different. We always like equity. We always like the same, and to do the same thing at the elementary as at the secondary level. But I think there's enough, there's certainly interest amongst our elementary staff, but I think there's enough rationale for why we would want to try it to see if for this year if it works. If it works well, then we know we have a process that works. If we learn a little something and it doesn't work, then we can always go back to the old way. But the feedback I've received from our elementary staff has been very, very positive. They've appreciated that we heard their concerns and that we're going to try something different. With Action Research, I included, you heard the Teacher Leadership Academy members talk about their Action Research topics. A handful of you were able to get away from your daily lives and come and listen to our Teacher Leadership Academy members share their action research with each other, and they were very appreciative they were there. Other schools referenced that Jamestown School Board members were there and present, and they felt very empowered and appreciative of that. But I've included their action research topics, their methodology, and their findings for you, just to give you some insight on the types of projects that they're working on. And as they mentioned earlier in board education, they'll be here in this semester, their final semester. They're graduating in December, or they're finalizing their projects in December, and they'll graduate. But before they do that, they're required to provide some community presentation, and that includes you. And so you'll get a chance to hear a little bit more from them on the great work that they did. The last thing that I have relates to the school resource officer. We were approached and asked by Jamestown Police Department to discuss the possibility of providing additional financial support to them, specifically related to the purchase of a vehicle that would be devoted to the JPS school resource officer. We don't have a breakdown or a finalized proposal, but I'm generally supportive. Of course, understanding what our budgetary limitations are, what the what the request turns out to be, who owns the vehicle, what does that look like, what is the timeline, all of those things would be factors. But in general, I'm supportive of the idea that we provide a little bit more support. That has been a significant barrier. The cost of that vehicle for the city, that has been a barrier for us. And it's been very, very inefficient for the school resource officer to have to constantly run around from his home to get his squad car to go up to a football game, or he attends dozens and dozens of games, activities for us, and having a vehicle may help us to eliminate a barrier to getting a second school resource officer if the city gets to the point where that is a possibility. So generally I'm supportive, but the devil's in the details. And I will share that information when we get to it, but I would stand for questions.
Jamie?
I just have a question on the the PLC times. With those families that do have, children in elementary and secondary, I imagine that'd be very difficult in being a working parent for getting those kids to school. Are we gonna somehow get feedback from our families as we're running this pilot program, or?
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about how it's working and if there's any barriers or things that we could do differently. We'll give it a few, give it some time, and we'll get feedback from all the stakeholders on what's working, what isn't working. And realistically, from a family, if they were dropping their student off at 8, unless they weren't doing it, it's still possible. It's just who's doing the drop-off.
Sure.
It
And
might
then-
be an issue of convenience.
So if you're dropping your elementary child off to eat breakfast, so 7:50, you could take your middle schooler, even though, there will be people here.
Yeah.
So that ultimately could be an option for those
Yep.
parents as well, right?
Wednesday shouldn't look any different than Tuesday outside of, as far as when you can drop off. It's just those limited instances in which a parent couldn't drop off and they rely on an older student to drop off. If they still could, that just depends on who's going to be doing the drop off. But we will absolutely get feedback and see if this is working, both from our teachers, our administrators, but also our parents. It's a pilot.
Any other questions for Dr. Lick on his report? Okay. If not, moving on. F, nothing under old business. G, nothing under new business, activities, buildings and grounds, curriculum assessment and instruction. For number 3, nothing under that area. Number 4, finance. A, general fund balance, and B, monthly financials are there for your information. I'll pause if there's any questions about that. If not, moving on. 5, personnel. A, approval to hire Ari Stokes as special education technician for the 2023 to 2024 school year, and upon a successful background check. And subsequent number 1, approval of memorandum of understanding. Is there a motion? Motion by Melissa, second by Gail. We have a motion and a second for approval to hire Ari Stokes as special education technician for the 2023 to 2024 school year, and upon a successful background check. And subsequent 1, approval of memorandum of understanding. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. B, approval of the 2023 to 2024 extended school year contracts. Number 1, Benjamin Smith for an additional section for first semester at a salary of $5,133.33. Debbie Krebs for an additional section for first semester at a salary of $6,493.58. Number 3, Cheryl McIntyre for an additional section for first semester at a salary of $6,865.58. Number 4, Marshall Krieger for an additional section for first semester at a salary of $7,070.33. Is there a motion? And your motion can include all 1 through 4 if you wish. Motion by Jamie, is that for all 1 through 4? Is there a second? Second by Melissa. We have a motion, a second, for approval of the 2023 to 2024 extended school year contracts. Any discussion? Gail?
I thank them all for stepping up. Will this section that Marshall teaches lead to people being certified to officiate So that would alleviate another need that a lot of districts have?
Yep, I think that is ultimately Mr. Krieger's long-term viewpoint, is that it could fill that gap in the long term.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second for approval of the 2023 to 2024 extended school year contracts. There being no further discussion, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Number 6, policies and procedures. A, approval of recommended policies. Number 1, approval of amended policy FAAA, open enrollment. Number 2, approval of amended policy BC, meetings of the board and subsequent review of BC-E, sample meeting notice. Number 3, approval of amended policy BCAA, board meeting agenda and pre-meeting preparation. Number 4, approval of amended policy ABEC, school meal charge. Number 5, approval to rescind policy DKA, reduction in force. Number 6, approval of first reading of policy DKA, reduction in force. Is there a motion? And again, you can include all, or if you want to pull one off for further discussion. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Gail. So we have a motion and a second for approval policy A 1 through 6. Any discussion? Any discussion? There being no discussion, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 7, tuition. A, approval of tuition agreements. Number 1, fourth grade student to attend Montpelier Public Schools for the 2023 to 2024 school year. Number 2, pre-K students to attend Montpelier Public School for the 2023 to 2024 school year. 3, kindergarten student to attend Pingree Buchanan Public School for the 2023 to 2024 school year. 4, fifth grade student to attend Pingree Buchanan Public School for the 2023-2024 school year. 5, seventh grade Montpelier student to attend Jamestown Public School for the 2023 to 2024 school year. Number 6, second and 7th grade Barnes County North students to attend Jamestown Public Schools for the 2023 and 2024 school year. Is there a motion? And the motion can include 1 through 6 if you wish. A motion to approve 1 through 6 under tuition by Dan. Is there a second? Second by Melissa. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? There being no discussion, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Number 8, under other, we have board resolution. Dan, do you want to just have some discussion on that, and we can bring it to another meeting?
Yeah,
as
we'll
needed?
bring this to another meeting when Jason's able to talk to it more. Yeah, but we drafted up a resolution regarding some of the topics that came up during negotiations. So generally, it's basically give us, as a board, more visibility to what's happening in communications, just so we're aware of it, and make sure that we're in the loop on things. So again, Jason will bring the details of that and at some future meeting to act on.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Okay. We'll have further discussion on that. Thank you. Items for future agenda. Are there any items for future agenda? Yep, go ahead, Gail.
I don't know that it's necessarily an item, but just a reminder that with schools starting to drive carefully around our schools and protect our children, a lot of people are still in summer mode, and it's just important to then also remember that to be kind and courteous to the people who are neighbors of our school when you're picking up or dropping off children as well. But it's always a worry of mine this time of year that we are protecting our most wonderful resource. So thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Any items for future agenda? At any time, if you have an item, please let Dr. Leck or myself know. Under meetings to be scheduled, A, serve back to school breakfast Tuesday, tomorrow, August 22nd at the high school commons area at 7 a.m. B, the next school board meeting is it's on Tuesday. This one always, Tuesday, September 5th, because of the Labor Day holiday. 2023 at 5:15 in the Thompson Community Room. And the Health Insurance Committee meeting is scheduled for September 11th at 3:45 in the District Office Conference Room. Reminder to complete your monthly superintendent evaluations, Section 2, Board Relations, and Section 4, Curriculum and Student Support Services. There being no further business before the board, The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.